Amy Sllayton and Tammy Sllayton, stars of 1,000-Pound Sisters, are in a lot of danger. They just had a big fight with their sister, Adam Holtman. The argument rapidly turned into a fight, and all three of them got into a fight. Amy's husband, who was no longer disguising what happened, went straight to the police. The police came to the scene quickly and arrested Amy, Tammy, and Adam. They then transported them to the police station. Later, Amy paid Tammy's bail and let her go. The police, on the other hand, were very hard on Adam Holtman. There are reports that Adam will have to go to court. Fans are startled by what happened and don't know what will happen to the show next. The sun was just going down over Dixon, Kentucky, and the peaceful street where the Sllayton family lived was covered in deep orange shadows. It was supposed to be a quiet night, but things were getting out of hand in Amy Sllayton's living room. Amy had been under a lot of stress for weeks. Her marriage to Michael was on shaky ground. She was tired from filming, and her health journey was turning out to be harder than she thought it would be. Tammy had just gotten out of rehab again and was trying to get used to life again, but her temper was still hot. Adam Holtman was their long-lost half-brother who had just come back into their lives and said he wanted to make amends after years of being apart. At first, it seemed like a blessing that Adam was there. He was funny, willing to help out around the house, and told anecdotes from the past. But soon, old wounds started to hurt again. Adam's propensity of making fun of the sisters' choices in life quickly developed into continual fighting. The fight started that night over something small. Amy's car keys were gone. "I know you took them, Adam," Amy yelled, her voice shaking with anger. Adam crossed his arms and said, "I don't need your car, Amy. Perhaps you would remember where you put them if you weren't so scatterbrained." Tammy, who had been sitting quietly on her wheelchair, suddenly leaped in. "Don't talk to her that way. Since you got here, you've been a problem." Adam smiled. "Oh, come on, Tammy. Since you were born, you've been a problem." That was the thing that made the explosion happen. Amy lunged forward and pushed Adam. He fell back and knocked over a lamp. Tammy, who was quite angry, hurled her drink at Adam and hit him right in the chest. The living room was a mess in seconds. People were yelling, pushing, and something glass broke on the floor. Michael, who had been in the kitchen, ran in to stop it. But this time he didn't stay quiet. He picked up his phone. He said beneath his breath, "I'm done with this. I'm going to call the police." It didn't take long. Flashing blue lights lit up the street in less than 15 minutes. People in the neighborhood watched from their windows as police officers went into the house and split up the siblings. One cop remarked in a flat voice, "You're all coming with us," and put Amy, Tammy, and Adam in handcuffs. The tone changed at the police station. Amy, shivering with excitement, demanded that Tammy be let out on bond. She said firmly, "She's my sister. She just got out of rehab. She can't be here." A few hours later, Amy herself took Tammy home. But Adam wasn't as lucky. The cops decided to detain him in prison because of past accusations and aggressive behavior. Almost right away, rumors started to spread. Some people believed he had an outstanding warrant, while others said he may be charged with assault. The report had spread to various outlets before morning. Fans came up with a lot of theories online. Did Adam mean to cause trouble? Is this the end of the 1,000-Pound Sisters? TLC didn't say anything, which made people even more curious. Amy didn't say anything in public, but those who knew her claimed she was heartbroken, not just because the conflict could hurt the program, but also because it showed how broken her family was. Tammy, on the other hand, posted a vague TikTok about snakes in the family, which just made things more confusing. There were suggestions that the county prosecutor was getting ready to move forward with a trial for Adam. The reunion of the Sllayton siblings, which had previously seemed like a good idea, had turned into a nightmare that might be shown on TV, whether they liked it or not. And elsewhere, admirers were already asking, was this the end of the Sllayton family's crazy, unpredictable story, or merely the start of a new chapter? But people in the small community of Dixon, Kentucky, were very excited. Amy Sllayton and her brother Chris had been preparing a special meeting for a long time. People from all over the world were coming to see them, take pictures, and share stories. For Amy, This event was more than just about interacting with fans. It was about family. She also wanted her sister Tammy to be there. But it would be a completely different story to convince Tammy to agree. Tammy has become more reclusive since she moved into an assisted living facility to work on her health. She was nervous about being among a lot of people, and because she had trouble moving around, she didn't go out in public very much. Amy still couldn't picture doing this without her. Tammy's voice was shaky when she continued, "Amy, I don't know if I can handle all that." Amy said with warmth, "Tammy, people love you. They want to see you, not just Chris and me. We have to tell this tale about our family collectively." Chris, who was listening on the speaker, added his typical combination of humor and brutal honesty. "Tammy, you're the main event. People are going to be angry if you don't come. Plus, I've already told the man who runs the food truck that you would try his bacon-wrapped hot dogs." Tammy laughed, but she was still hesitant. "Chris, I don't want people to judge me. I'm not where I want to be yet." Amy whispered softly, "That's the point. You don't need to be perfect. Just be yourself." Amy and Chris drove 2 hours to visit Tammy in person the week before the event. They brought her favorite sugar-free pudding cups since they knew that food was the best way to get her to pay attention. They spent the afternoon talking, joking, and making ridiculous TikToks together. Amy saw Tammy's defenses slipping down little by little. But getting around was still a significant problem. Tammy's specialist wheelchair van had been in the shop for weeks, and the rental options were too pricey. Chris spent hours on the phone looking for a way to fix things. He even thought about borrowing a bus from a church. There was a lot going on in the morning before the event. Chris pulled up to Amy's house in his pickup truck and honked like he was starting a parade. Amy was already trying to keep track of her 2 little boys, Gage and Glenn, who were running around in matching Team Sllayton shirts. When they drew up to Tammy's facility, she was waiting outside in a fresh clothes, hair done, and nails painted a sparkling pink. Her smile was modest, but it was real. "Are you all ready to make history?" Chris smiled and helped her into the van they had just rented at the last minute. There were old country tunes, laughs, and the promised stop for sweet tea on the way. When they got to the site, a community center in the area decorated with balloons and posters made by fans, there was a queue of people waiting to see them that went all the way around the block. The crowd cheered as soon as they walked in. Fans held up placards that said, "We love you, Tammy. Sllayton sisters forever," and Tammy's eyes widened. For a second, Amy was afraid Tammy would want to turn around. But then Tammy smiled and lifted her chin. They hugged admirers, signed autographs, and took pictures with them for the next few hours. Chris kept the excitement up by delivering amusing stories from behind the scenes, and Amy made sure Tammy had drinks and breaks. A shy 8-year-old girl came up to Tammy and said, "You're my hero. You give me hope that I can do hard things." Tammy was tired by the end of the day, but she also looked great. She said to Amy and Chris on the way home, "I'm glad I came. I didn't know that others cared about me so much." Amy leaned over and held her sister's hand. "Tammy, they don't just care about you, they love you. We do too." Chris, who never misses a chance to make a joke, said, "Now that you've made it through this, we're going to the state fair next time. Fried Oreos, Ferris wheels, and all that." But Amy realized that something had changed deep inside. This wasn't just to get together. It showed that their family could handle problems together, no matter what. But no one could have guessed how intense and emotional Season 5 of 1,000 Pound Sisters would be. The cameras were rolling practically every day, and they caught not just the physical changes in Amy and Tammy, but also the strong closeness between the 2 sisters, which was sometimes hard. The story starts in early spring, right before the cameras started rolling. Amy had been feeling a little anxious and unsure. She knew that this season would test her in ways she had never been tested before, both physically and mentally. After her surgery went well last season, she was even more determined to keep losing weight. But Tammy, her older sister, was having her own problems. She was struggling with her self-esteem and trying to find a way to balance her health with her household duties. There were a lot of awkward and vulnerable moments throughout the first several weeks of filming. Amy and Tammy were still figuring out how to talk to each other and the cameras in fresh ways. There were days when the 2 didn't even want to talk because they were so stressed out about being recorded and their health journeys. One of the first things the crew filmed was Amy's first visit with her new dietitian. Amy was scared but hopeful. The camera crew followed her attentively, documenting every detail, from the way she hesitated in her voice to the hopeful glimmers in her eyes as the dietitian lay out a strategy. Tammy was there too, quietly supporting her sister, but clearly having a hard time with the thought of change. The sisters went food shopping together in a notable early moment. It wasn't just about selecting out food. It was a symbolic occasion for them to attempt to make healthier choices in their daily lives. They fought over what to buy. Tammy wanted comfort food, but Amy wanted fresh veggies and lean meats. There was significant tension between them, but the cameraman also got the softer moments, such when Tammy snuck Amy a candy bar and Amy laughed even though she didn't want to. As the season went on, the feelings got stronger and stronger. There was one episode that was really raw and focused on Amy's surgery prep. The night before the surgery, the home was quiet save for the sound of the camera equipment. Tammy was sitting on the edge of Amy's bed, gripping her hand tightly. Amy was worried of what the operation would mean for her future, and Tammy was scared of losing her sister or not being able to be there enough. The team saw how Amy and Tammy's friendship was changing behind the scenes. The older sister, who was normally quite talkative and protective, had times when she was quiet and open. Amy, who is normally loud and humorous, was quiet and thoughtful. The cameras seemed to peel back layers that had never been shown before. Things weren't always easy when the cameras weren't on. The production schedule was hard. They had to get up early, stay up late, and travel all the time for therapy sessions and doctor's appointments. Amy and Tammy often talked openly about how hard it was on both their bodies and their minds. Tammy told a crew member during a break in filming that she was afraid she would never lose the weight she wanted. She remarked, "Sometimes it feels like the weight isn't just on my body, it's on my heart." The team was touched by her honesty and worked harder to make sure the show didn't just focus on the numbers on the scale, but also on the sisters' mental health. Season 5 also provided the cameras an opportunity to see more family time together. Tina, Amy and Tammy's mom, was a big part of numerous situations. She was their biggest supporter and their harshest critic at the same time. One scene portrayed a family supper that turned into a fight and brought up old wounds. They recorded the sequence late at night, and subsequently, Amy and Tammy talked candidly about how hard, but healing it was to show those moments. The season wasn't all about problems, of course. There were times of joy, like when Amy set a new personal best at the gym, Tammy got a clear bill of health at a checkup, and the sisters made each other giggle while shooting a cosmetics tutorial. But things didn't always go as planned. Tammy had to skip a few days of filming since her chronic condition got worse. This was hard for her because she didn't want to let down her followers or her sister. Amy also felt the pressure and occasionally wondered if she could keep up with the fast pace of filming and getting better. It was a bright summer day when they recorded the last episode of Season 5. Amy and Tammy chose to have a simple, fun lunch in the park. They talked about their ambitions, anxieties, and dreams for the future that had nothing to do with losing weight. Amy remarked, "It's not just about changing how I look. It's about changing how I feel on the inside." Tammy grinned and nodded. "We're sisters, and whatever happens, we'll face it together." The crew knew they had gotten something special behind the scenes. This season wasn't just a reality program, it was a story of family, strength, and optimism. But people have always recognized Tammy Sllayton for her enormous heart and even bigger personality. It wasn't easy for her to have personal relationships while living in the spotlight with her sister Amy on 1,000-Pound Sisters. Tammy's dating life had been anything but easy. It was full of ups and downs, hardships, and lessons she didn't see coming. Tammy, like everyone else, had hopes of finding love from the start. She wanted someone to be with her who could look past her weight and problems and love her for who she was. But dating wasn't easy. Tammy had been through loss, misunderstandings, and times when she wasn't sure if she'd ever find the proper person. Tammy's first serious relationship started a few years before the show got a lot of notice. She met Josh at a local support group. He appeared kind, calm, and patient. Tammy let herself dream about a future full of dates, fun, and getting closer to each other for a time. But it didn't last. Josh had a hard time dealing with Tammy's health problems and mood swings, and the relationship started to fall apart. Tammy felt weak and scared after the separation. The sorrow of being rejected wasn't just about love. It was a terrible reminder of how hard she struggled every day to feel good about herself. But Tammy's spirit wouldn't let her down. She knew she deserved love, even if it was hard to get to. Tammy's life went public in a way she didn't expect when she appeared on 1,000-Pound Sisters. Fans saw her ups and downs, such when she tried to lose weight, when she got upset, and how her family worked together. Tammy was worried about dating in such a public way behind the scenes. Could anyone see past the camera? Would someone really love her? Tammy decided to try dating online one day. It was a whole new world, with people swiping left and right, texting strangers, and trying to figure out how to deal with the problems of modern love. The experience was too much at first. Some people were quite mean to her, some ghosted her, and a couple even said mean things. Jason was unique. He was not only concerned in how Tammy looked or how famous she was on social media. He asked her real questions about her dreams, her problems, and what made her laugh. They started it cautiously, messaging for hours, sharing music playlists, and then video calls. Tammy started to open her heart again because Jason was patient and gentle. Tammy's anxieties went through the roof when Jason proposed they meet in person. There was a lot of pressure. How would she look? Would Jason still like her in real life? What if somebody saw her and caused a scene? But Tammy was set on it. She wanted to face her concerns and be open to the idea of being happy. The date was easy. We went to a diner in the area with comfy booths and comfort food. Jason sent Tammy a bouquet of wildflowers, which was a tiny but kind gesture that made her smile right away. They chatted about everything, from their favorite movies to memories from their youth to their expectations for the future. Tammy felt like she was really seen and accepted for the first time in a long time. Jason didn't care about her health or weight. He cared about how she laughed and how warm she was. The night concluded with a hug that felt like a promise. It was the start of something new, not the conclusion. Of course, every trip has its hiccups. Tammy's health problems often made it impossible for her to stick to plans, and she sometimes feared that she was putting too much on Jason. There were days when she was anxious or felt bad about herself in public. Tammy got strength from Jason's constant encouragement. People who didn't know the couple, and even some people who did, thought the relationship wasn't real. Tammy learned to ignore the bad things and focus on the good things, like the love and respect they had for each other. Over the course of several months, Tammy and Jason became closer. Tammy's confidence grew. She went to more social gatherings, tried new things, and even planned a trip with Jason to a beach town nearby. It wasn't flawless, but it was real. Jason told Tammy that he liked her strength and bravery while they were sitting by the ocean and watching the sun set one afternoon. Tammy then understood that dating wasn't just about finding love. It was also about rediscovering her own strength and learning to trust again. Tammy learned a lot about dating, like that love isn't about being flawless, that being open is a strength, and that the right person will love all of her, good and bad. Tammy and her followers saw her relationship with Jason as a sign of hope that everyone deserves to be loved on their own terms. Tammy welcomed this new chapter of her life with open arms as the cameras kept rolling for 1,000-Pound Sisters. She knew there would be hard times ahead, but she was ready to face them now, not just for herself, but also for anyone who needed to be reminded that love is possible no matter what. But Tammy had always had trouble with her weight, which felt like a never-ending, tiring fight. For years, food was more than simply fuel for her. It was also an emotional anchor. Every bite she took was like a shield against the world's harshness, a method to calm the stress, despair, and anger that were building up inside her. Tammy understood the truth, though. Not only were her eating habits bad for her health, they may kill her. But she found it tougher than she imagined to admit the truth. Change was scary and hard to deal with. It was too much for her to think about facing her worries and taking responsibility. One day, Amy's sister asked her to a special presentation regarding skin removal surgery. This was a topic that was very important to them because Amy had had weight loss surgery herself. It wasn't just about the surgery, it was also about the trip following and the emotional and physical obstacles that came with it. Tammy didn't want to go, but she did because she thought it could spark something inside her. There were a lot of folks in the room who were going through the same things. The speaker was a surgeon who had helped many people get rid of their skin, but what really moved Tammy were the stories of those who had to adjust their lifestyle to stay healthy after surgery. The surgeon's remarks were obvious and scary. Losing weight is a win, but keeping that win requires dedication and change. Eating habits that got you here might take you back, and occasionally to worse places. Tammy's heart raced as she listened carefully. She thought about her own behaviors, such how she would binge eat late at night, eat mindlessly, and consume comfort foods that made her feel better for a short time but hurt her in the long run. Tammy went behind after the speak to chat to a counselor who was there to help those who were there. The counselor posed questions that were both gentle and strong, like, what do you want for your life? What scares you the most? What little thing could you do today to get started? Tammy's eyes filled with tears. I want to live. I want to be in good health. I want to be present for my family. But I'm terrified. I'm scared I won't be able to do it. The counselor smiled kindly. Things don't change all at once. It happens little by little, every day. You are stronger than you think. Tammy sat alone in her room that night and thought. She recognized it was time to deal with her bad eating habits. The conversation had sparked a fire in her, a mix of terror and optimism. Tammy made her first tiny change the next morning. Instead of her normal sugary breakfast, she had a bowl of oatmeal with fresh fruit, which was lighter and healthier. It wasn't easy. She fought off urges, and the want to give up was strong. But every day she had minor wins, like drinking more water, walking around her neighborhood for 10 minutes, or asking Amy for help instead of eating when she was anxious. These alterations began to gain speed over time. Tammy started writing down her sentiments in a journal, which she never thought she would do. She learned what made her overeat by writing. She learned that her worst adversaries were loneliness and anxiety, and that the first step to getting better was to recognize them. Amy saw how hard Tammy was working and cheered her on, telling her that every step forward was important. They worked out together, made better meals, and talked honestly about their problems and successes. Months moved into weeks. Tammy's bad eating habits started to lose their hold. She still had hard days when she wanted to binge, but she learned to stop, take a deep breath, and pick a healthier way. Tammy went to the doctor one afternoon. The doctor smiled because she was making good progress. Tammy, your health markers are getting better. If you keep doing this, you'll be in a lot better situation shortly. Tammy cried tears of happiness and relief. She wasn't alone and she wasn't weak. The debate about taking off the skin was more than just an event. It was a turning point, a wake-up call. Tammy's path was far from ended, but now she was ready to confront it with courage, hope, and a new faith in herself. She knew there would be bumps in the road ahead, but she was ready. She had learned that the most deadly habit, the one that almost cost her everything, could be broken one step at a time. But the tension between Amy and Tammy finally reached a breaking point on a hot, humid summer afternoon. The two sisters, who typically couldn't be separated even when things were hard, were suddenly hit by a storm of feelings that neither of them saw coming. Amy was in the kitchen making supper and humming to herself, while Tammy sat on the couch looking at her phone. It was just like any other day, but both of them were bearing a huge burden deep inside. Amy was tired of always having to be the responsible one, and Tammy was stressed out by the weight of their situation. Tammy, can you please get up and help me for once? Amy yelled, her voice strained, but attempting to maintain cool. Tammy looked up, her eyes flashing with anger. I'm tired, Amy. You always bother me about everything. Amy let out a big breath and wiped her hands on her apron. Because I'm the one who does all the work here. You can't just sit there and do nothing. Tammy got up, and the anger in her eyes was now fully lit. You think I want this life? Do you think I don't want to change? But it's not that simple. You don't know what it's like to be stuck in your own body. Amy's face got hard. I'm doing my best, Tammy. I'm the one that wants us to get healthier, go to treatment, and lose weight. But you keep making excuses. Their voices got louder and bounced throughout the small living room. Old wounds opened up, and feelings of shame, anger, and fear poured out like a flood. "You constantly think you're the perfect one, huh?" Tammy said, "Get out of my way," as she walked back and forth. "The one who thinks she's better than me because she's lost weight." Amy's eyes filled with tears. "That's not true. I'm scared too. I'm afraid we'll lose each other if we don't try." Tammy halted, and tears ran down her face. "Maybe I don't want to be saved. I might be okay with who I am." At that moment, Amy's heart broke. Tammy backed away when she reached out. Amy muttered, "I don't know who you are anymore." The silence that came after was so loud. For a minute, the quarrel turned into something worse, the excruciating loneliness both sisters felt. Tammy finally broke down and fell on the couch after what felt like hours. Amy sat next to her and carefully offered her hand. "Tammy, I love you, no matter what." But Tammy and Amy Sllayton had a lot of emotional highs, deep talks, and unique moments in Season 4 of 1,000-Pound Sisters. The season was really interesting because of their relationship, problems, and successes. Here is a made-up story about the 5 most important times that shaped their path together. Tammy's bold choice to go through with her weight loss surgery was one of the most poignant moments in Season 4. Tammy had been scared and apprehensive for a long time, but this season you could see the determination in her eyes. Amy, her older sister and biggest fan, was there for her every step of the way. The day of the procedure was very busy. Tammy was scared but determined. Amy grabbed her hand tightly in the waiting area and told her how much she loved her and how much she believed in her. Their talk wasn't just about the surgery, it was also about hope, the future, and the prospect of a better life. Tammy's weakness at that time displayed her strength, and Amy's constant support was what sisterhood was all about. Amy hit a big emotional wall halfway through the season. The stress of her personal weight reduction struggle and the duties of taking care of Tammy, her family, and herself were too much for her. Amy broke down crying one night when she was feeling weak. She was scared of failing and didn't know what her future held. Tammy discovered Amy crying, and instead of talking about her own problems, she comforted Amy with loving words that made her feel better. "We're in this together, Amy." Tammy said, "We got this," and hugged her sister. This moment was real and raw. It showed how they could count on each other for strength no matter what challenges they were going through. Tammy and Amy's decision to work out together was another event that will stay with me forever. It was more than just working out. It was a promise to help each other and make changes to their lives together. The workout was hard. The sisters were both in pain and tired, yet they cheered each other on and made the room laugh. Tammy pushed herself above her boundaries even though she was still recovering from surgery, and Amy showed a lot of patience and drive. It was inspiring to see them support each other and celebrate their modest wins. It reminded fans that their journey was not just about losing weight, but also about empowering each other. Tammy got to meet admirers who had been following her and Amy's journey for years at a heartwarming meet-and-greet event in Season 4. There were tears, thanks, and hope in the air. Amy gave Tammy a scrapbook full with comments from fans and personal notes from Amy herself. This made the moment much more precious. Tammy was so moved when she realized how many people her tale had affected. This incident brought the sisters closer together and to their community as a whole, reminding them that they were never alone. Tammy took care of preparing a surprise birthday celebration for Amy, which was a sweet way to end the season. Tammy wanted to celebrate Amy's courage and improvement, even though they had been through a lot of hard times. There was a lot of affection at the basic party. Amy was really astonished and touched when her family and close friends came together. Tammy's efforts to make Amy feel special showed how much their relationship had evolved despite all the problems they had faced. The celebration wasn't the point. It was the love, support, and admiration they had for each other. Hello, lovely viewers. Welcome to my channel. My name is Mina, and I hope your day is going well. If you appreciate the video, be sure to subscribe to the channel.